Believe in yourself, 'cause it starts with you, and then everyone else will believe you too. And if it looks like you're the only believer around, just keep on believing, don't put yourself down, just believe.
Our guest this week grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. At age 9, on January 17th, 1987, while playing with fire and gasoline, he created a massive explosion in his home and was burned on 100% of his body. He was given less than a 1% chance to live. He's given over 2,600 talks worldwide, sharing the lessons of kindness and resilience that fueled his recovery. He's the author of On Fire, the 7 choices to ignite a radically inspired life, and a movie of his life. Soul on Fire has just been released. His name, John O'Leary. And I'm Jack Krasula, and this is Anything is Possible on 760 WJR. This is Anything is Possible. I'm your host, Jack Krasula. We're with John O'Leary, and a movie on his life has just been released entitled Soul on Fire. John, welcome. What an honor to have you.
Jack, this is my honor, man. I am a big fan, so thank you for your work.
Okay, let's go back to January 17th, 1987. You're 9 years old. What happened?
Yeah, so what happened was a week before I watched kids in my neighborhood playing with fire and gasoline. And I assumed if these big boys, 11-year-olds, could do it, I could as well. And so once Dad went off for work and my mom took off with a couple of sisters of mine, I snuck into the garage, bent over a can of gasoline. And my plan, Jack, was just to pour a little bit of gas on top and watch it just jump to life like I'd seen other kids doing. But before the liquid even came out of the can, the fumes inhaled that little flame back into the container. It created this massive explosion, blasted me against the far side of the garage, and literally set my world on fire.
You're 9 years old, okay? You were burned 100% of your body. You were given less than 1% chance to live. But immediately, God brought a number of angels into your life. One was your brother Jimmy. What did he do?
Well, I like how you said that. I mean, we can view it all as just happenstance or accidental or good fortune, but I do think God brought these angels into my life. And I didn't call them angels or even recognize necessarily God's hand in it at first. But now looking back on it, it's just an unbelievable set of circumstances and angels who showed up. And the very first, as you alluded to, was my brother Jimmy. He was 17. I was 9. He was my older brother, had never done anything kind for me in his entire life, typical Midwest Irish family. And yet on this day, man, I ran from the garage on fire, ran back into our house, ran through the kitchen and family room and into the front hall. And Jack, I just stood on the front hall screaming for a hero, praying for a savior. And who I was hoping for and praying for, I tell you right now, was not my brother Jim. And yet that's the one who was used. My brother Jim heard the screams, came from the basement where he slept, ran over to a little boy who had flames leaping 3 feet off of my body in all directions. And heroically, my brother beat down the flames, wrapped me in a little rug, carried me outside, and saved my life.
All right, another angel. She was 8 years old. One of your 4 sisters, Susan, what did she do?
Yeah. Well, you've done your homework, man. Most people don't even know, John O'Reilly. It says here that you survived a car accident. And I'm like, almost. It's O'Leary, and it's a fire. So I appreciate you, Jack, really lifting the logs, man, and doing the work. So my sister Susan is one of my heroes, even to this day. I'm in the front yard now after my brother saves my life. The home, as you might imagine, is aflame. And I don't know if I want to survive this. I'm looking at my body. It's completely unrecognizable. I'm looking at the home. It's got flames leaping out of the roof line, flames that I caused accidentally, but it's still my fault. And I remember just kind of yelling at my sisters, get a knife, guys. So I get a knife and just finish me off. And this little girl, Susan, goes back into a burning house. She runs through the smoke and I'm sure the fear, fills up a cup of water, comes back outside, She throws a cup of water in my face. I don't even know what she's doing. She wheels around. She goes back into a burning house a second time, fills up a second cup of water, runs back outside. Jack throws it on my face. And then one more time, this little girl goes back into this burning structure. She's willing to risk her life, willing to lay down her life for someone else's. She comes through the smoke safely, comes back outside safely for the third and final time, throws each cup directly into my face, begging me through her example, through her love, to live. I learned years and years and years later that I'm burned on 100% of my body. 87% was third degree. But part of my body that's not burned third degree is my face and my scalp. And the doctors now credit her with cooling the temperature, which allowed them to not only save my face and my scalp, but that's where they drew all my skin from my entire body now is covered with my scalp, if you can imagine. So I'm alive today because not only what my brother Jimmy did, but what my sister Susan did.
All right, we're talking about John O'Leary. If you want to learn more, www.johnoleary, Oleary, inspires with an S.com. All right, they get you to the hospital. You got a 1% chance to live. Your mom and your dad, two more angels. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I just lost my dad, so we're celebrating Thanksgiving next week, and it's easy to look at your life or look in the mirror, look at the nation, and feel as if you have little to be grateful for. That's not how we O'Learys view it. We are like Lincoln. Lincoln, basically created Thanksgiving during a period of civil war. So it's important as we celebrate this holiday right around the corner, we do recognize that in the midst of chaos, there's a reason to celebrate. And we're celebrating my dad's life. I'm celebrating his grace that he showed me when I was burned. So you're asking about what my dad did. What he did is he walked into the emergency room, panic-struck, yelling, "Where's my boy John? Where's my boy John?" And he's a veteran, served our nation. One of the nurses leads him back into the room. And as I see my dad moving quickly toward me, Jack, I remember thinking, oh, my gosh, she's coming to finish me off. The old man is furious. He found out I burnt down the house. And instead, this nurse brings him right on in. He points down and says to me, "John, look at me when I'm talking to you." So I do. And then he adds, "I have never been so proud of anyone in my entire life, and my little buddy today this morning. Man, I'm just glad to be your dad." And then my father says words that still jar me to this day. He says, "John, I love you, and there is nothing you can do about it. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it." And when I heard those words on that day, I remember thinking, gosh, nobody told my dad what happened. Like, he clearly doesn't know I burned down his home. But what I did not know at age 9 was the power of grace and mercy and love, and like a parent's unconditional love for their child. And man, I'm telling you, Jack, like it didn't make burn care easy. Well, like, what would? It did not make 5 months in the hospital easy. But I think the way my dad showed up in the emergency room made the journey forward possible.
We're talking to John O'Leary. When we come back, we're going to ask him about a couple more angels that helped him through. And I'm Jack Krasula, and this is Anything is Possible on 760 WJR. Welcome back to Anything is Possible. I'm Jack Krasula. We're with John O'Leary. Back on January 17th, 1987, at age 9, while playing with fire and gasoline, he was burned on 100% of his body, given less than a 1% chance to live. They take you to the hospital, and God brings another angel, a nurse. Nurse Roy, please.
Yeah, Nurse Roy. I mean, one of the cool things, as you know, Jack, they just made a film about this story, and in that film, the poster, normally they put like the hero on the front of it. And in our case, the hero's not John O'Leary. It's not the mountain climber. It's not the kid who survived the fire and went on and did something with his life. The hero, it's actually a mosaic of all of these people who showed up for John. And so you see siblings, and you see a bunch of the other characters I'm sure you'll talk about as the conversation between us continues forward. But one of the heroes you see is this good-looking African-American man. In Hollywood, his name is Devon Franklin. That's who plays him in the film. But his real name, as you alluded to, was Nurse Roy. And Nurse Roy was a burn technician. He had been basically trained to take patients from their bed to the bandage change room, remove the bandages, and then carrying them back in once they're bandaged up again. Like, that's his job. But this man saw a vision for my life that I never would have seen. And so what he used to do every morning is he would come into my room, he would unhook my left arm, and then my left leg, and then my right leg, and then my right arm, and then undo me from all the tubes and the connections. He would swoop me up in these big athletic arms of his, and he would drag the 9-year-old kid back to the bandage change, my little legs dangling between his. And on the walk back, he would say into my right ear, he had this big, thick, masculine voice. He would say, "Boy, listen to me. You are going to walk again. You might as well get used to it. Come on, move those legs. Today you walk, and I'll walk with you." And the first time I heard him say that, Jack, I remember thinking, this guy's wild, man. He's crazy. Has he not seen what happened to me? I'm burned so bad I'm never going to walk again. I know this. He should know this. And then the following day, this big, tough nurse comes back into that room a second time, undoes me from the bed, undoes me from the tubes, picks me back up in his arms, and says these same words: "Boy, you are going to walk again. Move those legs, because today you walk and I'll walk with you." And Jack, this goes on the entire 5 months I'm in hospital. Like, he never saw me walk while I was with him, not once. But today, as you and I are having this conversation, November 2025, baby, I dance around the world, man. You mentioned the 2,600 speeches. Most of those outside of St. Louis, many of them in Detroit and upper Midwest and around the country and around the world. I walk into all those speeches. How? I mean, there's a million reasons how, and yet foundationally and fundamentally, the first reason is I had a nurse who believed long before anybody else, not only that I would not die, this man believed I would walk. And, your show is all about making the impossible possible. And Roy cast that vision for me when no one else had it.
Back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, each baseball team had an iconic announcer. Mel Allen, Bob Prince, Ernie Harwell here in Michigan, Jack Brickhouse. Yeah. St. Louis had this guy, Jack Buck, the dad of the famous Joe Buck today. Yeah. Talk about Jack Buck.
That's pretty good lineage right there, man. Joe and Jack Buck came from the same tree, man. So pretty remarkable. And I love Joe, but I loved his dad. I just loved him, man. Like you mentioned, Michigan, everybody up in Michigan listens to Harwell. And apparently, not only the voice and the way these guys broadcast the games, but their hearts for the community were pretty akin. So Jack Buck was the voice of St. Louis Cardinals baseball for generations, for decades. And as a 9-year-old boy, Jack, I grew up listening to Mr. Buck. That's who tucked me into bed every night. So he was my hero. He was the one who, the call, Smith works one down the line and right it may go. Go crazy, folks.
Go crazy. It's a home run, and the Cardinals have won the game by the score of 3-2 on a home run by the Wizard. Go crazy.
Or we'll see you tomorrow night. All these great calls that was his voice. And when I first got burned, it was his voice that I would have loved to have heard, because I was at first in total silence, man. I was cut off from the world. I could not speak. I had a trach-in. My eyes were swollen shut, so I could not see. Certainly could not talk, but I could listen.
All right. He broadcast the Cardinals games for 47 years. He was the radio coverage for 18 Super Bowls, 11 World Series. You talked about that famous 1985 NLCS game. He's at a banquet one night. The legendary second baseman Red Schoendienst, Cardinals, was with the Cardinals for like 60, 70 years.
Yeah.
Talks about you, and what does this icon Jack Buck do? This latest angel.
Yeah. I mean, even the way you say that, and I can hear it in your voice, so you're going to hear it in mine. Like you got emotional. You knew the question you wanted to ask, and it stirs something within you because it's so unlikely. The whole story is so unlikely. They're at a sports writer dinner downtown St. Louis. They're toasting, what's to be in 1987. Eventually, the Cards will go on to the World Series and play the Twins, but they're just imagining what this could look like. And in passing, one Hall of Famer mentions to another that a little boy got burned in our community today. His name is John O'Leary. He's going to die. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Like, that's it. And what do you do when you get news like that? And what do you do when you have a busy life and you're being pulled in a million different directions already? Well, what Jack Buck did is he went to work. He left the auction. He gets into his Lincoln Town car, drives 25 minutes out west to, it's called Mercy Hospital, parks the car, walks in, takes the elevator ride up, gets scrubbed in, gowns up, and walks into a stranger's room. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a known commodity. I'm not a future motivational speaker with a movie about my life. That's not on the deck of cards, guys. I'm nobody, and I'm dying. And this somebody who's busy already shows up, sits down next to me. As I mentioned earlier, my eyes were swollen shut, so I can't see. But immediately, Jack, I recognize the voice when I hear it in my left ear. Kid, wake up. Wake up. You are going to live. You're going to survive. Keep fighting. John O'Leary Day at the ballpark will make it all worthwhile. Kid, are you listening? And then I hear the chair get pushed back. Mr. Buck walks out of that room. It was like a 10-second visit, and it changed me from the inside out. I went through a lot during that time in hospital, but that first night, that first visit from Jack Buck moved me profoundly. And I learned later on from my dad that Mr. Buck walked out of that room. This is a World War II hero, man, Purple Heart recipient, tough guy, but he wept. And one of the nurses goes over to comfort him. She kneels down and says, Mr. Buck, are you all right? And he says, I'm not sure. That little boy won't make it, will he? And the expert looks up and says, Mr. Buck, there's just not a chance. Let him go. And so this news of the impossible shows up in his life. And, it's shown up in all of our lives from time to time. Some of us are facing this right now. And Jack Buck takes it home. He asks the question, what more can I do? And then the following day, Sunday morning, I'm laying in a hospital bed dying when my friend Jack Buck walks in, sits down and says, kid, wake up, I'm back. You are going to live.
He went and visited you many, many times. Actually, there was a John O'Leary Day at St. Louis Cardinal Stadium because of him. And
yes.
He taught you how to write because he forced you how to write.
Right.
And I'm Jack Krasula,
right.
And this is Anything is Possible on 760 WJR. This is Anything is Possible. I'm your host, Jack Krasula. We're with John O'Leary. If you want to learn more, www.johnoleary, O-L-E-A-R-Y, inspires with an S.com. All right, one more angel. A co-ed named Beth from St. Louis University. You call her an angel every day.
Most days, Jack. Most days, brother.
She's never called you an angel, though.
No one is an angel all the time, but if there's someone close to it, it is my wife. And, listen, I know we're on our radio programs, and some people are in and out of their car and house and a million things, so they may have missed part of the story. But you're on the air right now with a guy who got burned as a 9-year-old kid on 100% of his body. 87% of the burns are third degree, which is to say from my neck to my toes are scars. My fingers on both hands have been amputated. So I'm an unusual-looking guy in some regards. I'm not like everybody else you see on the street corners, man. I have my own scars and my own struggles. And then this angel, man, you mentioned her. I met her first at a fraternity party. We both went to the same school. It's called St. Louis University. And Man, I was having a night. I was having a good time. I saw her from a mile away, and Beth has that kind of beauty that she drew everybody in. She still does. She's gorgeous. And so I had the audacity to go up and ask her out onto the dance floor, and she said yes. She grabs my right hand, and again, listeners, I have no fingers. How would you feel about grabbing a hand with some boy that has no fingers? I remember about Beth. She never even looked down. She just whatever. And we went onto the dance floor, Jack, and we had a night, man. We had a great time just connecting and dancing and laughing and celebrating life together. And we didn't start dating right away, but that was our first time together. And it struck me, not only her physical beauty, but her heart not to be stuck with the brokenness. It's so easy to see what's wrong with someone else. And Beth just chose not to. That's a pretty cool way to live life.
All right. You went on to start JOL Development, where you bought, updated, leased, and sold residential and commercial property in and around St. Louis. More than 40 properties were transformed, even though you have no fingers. But then in 2007, okay, a friend says, I've got a group of third grade Girl Scouts. John O'Leary, would you come and talk to them?
Mm.
And you were so nervous on the way up there, you threw up, but God had bigger plans for your life. What's happened?
Yeah, man. Even stepping back one day before the Girl Scouts, I was at church in the back row. And you never know who the angels might be and what voice might move you and really change your life. And so the pastor was talking about the gift of talents. And he went through 5 and 2 and 1. And Jack, you've got 5. But back then I felt like I had 0. And I'm not being humble. I'm being honest. I felt like I had no talent for anything. And the pastor said, and for those of you who feel like you've got none, listen to me. Your life is a precious, priceless gift. And with that gift, you've got one job. It is to say yes to being used for good. So I hear this message. The following day, I'm working construction. This woman invites me to speak to her troop, and under any other given set of days, I would have said no, because I've never told anybody how I got burned. Why talk about bad stuff? But the day before, my pastor said, church and John, say yes to being used for good. So I said yes that one time. In the movie, they gave me 6 Girl Scouts. In reality, it was 3. So this was not a big audience. I was not paid a box of Samoas for the effort. I bored them to sleep, but it led to a second speech to a Rotary Club, and then to a Kiwanis Club, and then to a little Catholic church, and then to a prison system. And this guy you're interviewing right now, John O'Leary, Jack, just kept saying yes. And what that led to over 20-plus years is now 2,700 speeches around the world, 2 best-selling books, a full feature film, and all of it ultimately having very little to do with the guy doing the work. I hold up a big old mirror in front of people, reminding them that their life is a precious, priceless gift. And with that gift, whether you have 5, 2, 1, or like me, none talent, you have one job. Say yes to being used for good. And it will change not only your world, but the world.
We're talking to John O'Leary, www.johnolearyinspires.com. Okay, John, I quote you. The most powerful weapon on earth is a soul on fire. Really?
Yeah. So, and I just, because I steal shamelessly from everybody. I've never had a creative, good idea myself. So that came from a World War I general named Foch. Foch changed the tide of that war, man. How? I think he understood it. If you can inspire people to recognize that they can do far more than they thought possible, you can change a person, you can change a company, you can change a battalion, you can change an army, you can change a fight. And so I do believe that the most powerful weapon on earth is a human soul on fire. And our job, whether you're Jack and you have this radio program, or you're a parent, or you're a neighbor, it's to show up in such a way that your soul is on fire for something bigger than yourself. That will radically change the way you show up in life. And if you do that enough over time, it changes not only your world, but the lives of those around you as well.
Okay, I've listened to a couple of your speeches online, and you ask, can one person change the world? And then you answer, yes, and it is a mandate for you to do it. Come on.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, when I think of changing the world, I'm not meaning politically necessarily or starting some massive not-for-profit or radio program, Jack, but to pretend like you can't influence the life of a widow next to you and bring her soup tonight and change her world for good. You can't rake her leaves. To pretend like you don't have the agency to be kind to others, to ask them how their day is going, to serve as an active big brother or big sister in a marketplace that is longing for leadership to show up in their lives. To pretend like we can't change the life of one person, it's a great lie. So yes, indeed, man, one person can and indeed always does change the world. I think we wait too much. We wait for the next guy to go. We wait for the right leader to show up. We wait for the right time for it to happen. And the time is now. And the person is you. And I'm not trying to be motivational here. I'm trying to be direct. Let's stop waiting. Jesus would say, pick up your mat. Pick up your mat, like move. Take the next right step, and it will change what happens behind that one.
We're talking to John O'Leary. When we come back, we're going to go back a little more than a month to October 8th, 2025. And I'm Jack Krasula, and this is Anything is Possible on 760 WJR.
You've been listening to your inspirational fireside chat, Anything is Possible, for nearly 20 years.
This is Anything is Possible, and I'm Jack Krasula.
But what has Jack been up to lately? Search @AIP Speaker Series and find out. Jack has interviewed thousands of historical voices, some of whom have offered him their philosophy of life, like Tom Izzo.
And Tom writes, work hard, persistence always wins out, discipline is the highest form of love. Stay humble.
The great Ernie Harwell.
My aim is to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God.
And the voices of our generation.
I am reassured continuously that His unfathomable love and mercy are the greatest gifts of my life and my constant source of strength, reassurance, and guidance. His Holiness, Pope Francis.
@AIP Speakers Series is the YouTube channel where all of these jewels can be heard, including some of Anything is Possible's greatest guests.
And we're with Mitch Albom.
The Little Liar is really a book about truth and lies and the price we pay when we lie.
This is Anything is Possible, and with Tom Watson.
My father loved to play with the pros at the club. Developed a very quick friendship with Stan and played some golf with him. And then he would ask me to play golf with him and Stan.
Our guest this week was born with a rare disorder characterized by the absence of arms and legs. His name, Nick Vujicic.
Something that every human being actually deals with, Jack. It's the choice of continuing to believe or giving up.
And recordings of the AIP Speaker Series events at St. John's Resort. Go to YouTube and search @AIP Speaker Series. It's free. And remember,
Anything is possible.
Spohom.
I'm Jack Krasula. This is Anything is Possible. We're talking to John O'Leary. John, let's go back. October 8th, 2025. You, Beth, and the kids go to a movie theater for the premiere of a movie entitled Soul on Fire. It's a story about Dad's life. What's it like watching a movie about your life?
Yeah, surreal. And not only is it surreal to have a movie made about your life, obviously, but it also is about the life of my wife, Beth. In fact, the girl who portrays Beth is beautiful, like my wife is. Her heart is beautiful, like my wife's is. But that girl even wore the wedding dress that my wife wore on our wedding day. They filmed the shots of us getting married in the church where John and Beth were married. In the second row behind the actors, we have John Corbett's in the front row, and next to him, Stephanie Shostak and William H. Macy's there, and like the whole gang, all the actors are there. But in the second row, they're not actors. Those are my mom and my dad. So the whole thing, man, like where they filmed the fire, that's my mom and dad's house. Two of the firefighters who put out the flames, Jack, those are kids that I went to grade school with. And when they showed up for school on a Monday, on January 19th, 1987, and one of the desks was empty, that was little Johnny's desk, they made a commitment as kids, when he gets out of the hospital, we're going to become firefighters too. We want to be heroes too. So to watch a film that is shot on location where it happened with the real people and the real props and telling the real story of real miracles and, in your words, real angels showing up, in my mind, like, that's not my story. Like, that's our story. And I'm glad right now that Hollywood has told the story really well. People are being moved by it. 98% of the audience have positively rated this thing. It's the most highly rated film of the year so far. Here we are in mid-November. The most highly rated film is so on fire. Why? Not because it's about a kid getting burned or about ultimately recovering or getting married or becoming a speaker. It's a story about real heroes, part of someone else's miracle. And if that's true in someone else's story, it also means it's possible for you and I to become angels, to become heroes in the lives of those around us.
Okay, let's go back, little Johnny O'Leary, to January 17th, 1987. Let's go back to that day. And God says, Johnny, here's what's going to happen if you go in that garage, start that match. Your choice. We can either have you be burned 100% of your body, live with that the rest of your life, or if you want, you don't have to do it. What would you tell God, John?
Gosh, I mean, that's so hard. You got me emotional just thinking about it, because I do think there's a reckoning in all of our lives, and God will walk us through our lives. And the mistake you just mentioned is one of a million I've made, some worse than that one. And God will redeem all of this in time, I believe. So you're asking specifically about the fire, and here's what I'll say. I woke up next to a girl who is so stunningly beautiful today. We've been together now 21 years. I'm wild about her. And her name is Beth. She gave me 4 kids. I have a heart for others because of the fire. I have compassion, man, for those who struggle. I have a strong faith because I relied on it when I was a kid. I'm wild about my dad, who we recently lost, but he's still my hero. And I'm incredibly in awe of my mom. So the best of my life today, Jack, this conversation with you is the result of being burned. And so I would say to God, give him the match packet. And we got to go through this, and we got to go through it together. I can't do it by myself, God, but together with those angels that you sent my way and the grace that you've given me before the fire and after the fire, it will be redeemed. And through this tragedy, we can elevate the lives of others who struggle. And that to me, that's worth it.
Next Thursday, we celebrate Thanksgiving. If there's a listener listening right now that's really down and out, ready to end their life, what do you say to them, John?
The first thing, there's a lot I would say. One is I would encourage them to read Lincoln's proclamation. So this holiday isn't celebrated because the economy is doing well right now. It's celebrated that in the midst of the Civil War, we set apart the fact that God, although he's blessed our nation so massively, he's added to these blessings again and again and again. Lincoln wrote those words when the nation was profoundly divided, when he just lost his own son. So for those who struggle, read the proclamation and you will find a little bit of hope in Lincoln's words. Secondly, I would not try to give a motivational speak to someone who is thinking of taking their own life. I would just sit there and I would love them. It's what Jesus did when he met people at the well. He just sat with his arm around them. So I would be with them. I would encourage them to reach out to others. I would beg them to know that they're not alone, that God will work through their future. They got to trust, shut their eyes, and keep stepping forward. I would ask them to ask someone else for help. And then if you get a little bit more pragmatic, I would encourage them to start making a list of blessings they have. And even in the midst of storms, you will find that there's an inventory of things that you've received that, man, they're unfairly yours. So take a list of what you've got and then shut your eyes and imagine what you can do next in your world. That little boy who wanted out when I was 9, I wanted out too. I had no idea how God would work through this story, and yet I look back on it now, and I see his hand perfectly all over this thing. And I would promise your listeners who are considering taking their life that they will look back one day and see that same miraculous gift in their journey.
The most used phrase in the Bible, 365 times in the Bible, it's not love your God, it's not love your neighbor. John, the most used phrase in the Bible is be not afraid. And
Amen.
your 4th chapter of your book is choose to embrace fear. I run away from fear, John. You're telling me I should embrace it?
Yeah, it's so hard to do, but you're right on everything you're saying right there. We all run away from fear. And in fact, what media does today, and so in large part, is they just point out the flames. They don't show us the firefighters who see the flames and respond to it. They don't show the heroes. In your words, Jack, the angels. And so I would encourage folks to embrace the burn, embrace the flames, embrace the fear, and then have the audacity to step to it. One way you could consider doing this is to have almost like a mission statement for your life on why you would. And if you frame it like this, I choose to embrace the fear because, and here's my answer, here's mine, because God demands it, my family deserves it, the world is starved for it, let's roll. That's language from 9/11.
Yes.
Let's roll. And then finally, no excuses. So, I live in anxiety. I do live in anxiety, Jack. I have so much anxiety and fear in my life, but I embrace it because God demands it. My family deserves it. The world is starved for it. Let's roll. No excuses.
All right, as our time winds down together, would you lead us in a closing prayer tonight, John O'Leary?
And honored to. God, our Father, you tell us that where 2 or more are gathered, you are in our midst. And right now we know, God, not only is it Jack and John partying and celebrating life together, God, but we have listeners out there who are on top of the world, and we have listeners who feel buried under the weight of it. And God, for all of us listening right now, let us feel your presence. Let us feel your grace. Let us feel your love working through all things, all people, including these days, including each of us. God, we give you thanks for the gift of your Son, Jesus. We give you thanks for the promise of salvation and the truth that in the midst of struggle, God, you are there and the best is yet to come. Be with Jack, be with those listeners, and be with our nation today and always. Amen.
And thank you for John O'Leary. Thank you for all the angels that you brought him in his life. And most importantly, let each one of us be an angel in some way today to another human being. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, John O'Leary. Please join us next week. Until then, I'm Jack Krasula. Thanks for listening, and make it a great week, because with God, anything is possible. Small.